All right, everybody, welcome in. Friday episode. We're going to be running through all of the NFL awards that are about to be given out this weekend. We're also going to be talking through some that Mike and I came up with on our own for the 2022/23 NFL season. I think technically they call it the 22 season. We're just kind of breaking down the year, who we think wins some awards. Some of these we're going to argue about because we have different opinions. Some of them I think aren't really up for debate. I think everybody's going to really agree with us. If you don't, go ahead and let us know. But probably not spend too much time on those ones that we all just think are agreed, said, and done. These are the guys that are going to win. But I think it's going to be a good time. We're not going to talk about that Pro Bowl. It's a joke. I'm going to keep saying it until they do something completely different. It's stupid. So we're just going to talk about some awards.
The fact that Snoop Huntley is in the Pro Bowl.
Right. Please. All right. I'm out. Right. Like Josh Allen said, I'm calling in sick and I'm going to be golfing instead. Like, I mean, that's you got guys that are top guys in your league that are just it's such a joke. They don't even want to show up for it, and they're going to go golfing instead. I mean, that's how sad that Pro Bowl has become. So again,
Sure
talk about some awards. We're gonna have some fun with it today. We're gonna run through the NFL awards first. These are the ones that they're going to be giving out. We're going to tell you who we think wins. We'll see how many we agree on when the award gets handed out. Let's start with the MVP. That's the big one. They got 5 finalists this year. We got Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Justin Jefferson. So 4 quarterbacks, 1 wide receiver. Look, we know how this goes. This is a quarterback award. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Josh Allen should not be a part of this award. The guy looked great for half the season. He looked very pedestrian for half the season. I get at the end of the day, his stats on the season look pretty good, but he led the NFL in red zone picks. He's a big reason this team wasn't better than they were. And I get it, superhero Josh Allen, he carries that team. But I look at that dude and I don't go, this guy was an MVP of the league. He's just a really, really good quarterback.
Who are you replacing him with?
Nobody. I'm putting 4 finalists. I don't even think another guy needs to be put on that list. So, I mean, if we want to throw somebody else on there, we can talk about that. But to me, Josh
Allen's
Allen's
Tyreek Hill?
Maybe. Look, here's the way I look at it. Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. He's going to win it. He set a new NFL record for passing yards in a season. 41 touchdowns. I mean, it's not close. His numbers are so much better than everybody else's. He's clearly MVP. He didn't even skip a beat losing Tyreek Hill off his team. So I'm fine putting 4 in there because we all know that he's going to win it anyway. So, I mean, we could put 40 people's name on there and be like, oh, well, why doesn't he? Look, he's not going to win. He doesn't have a shot. So, sure, you want to put Tyreek's name on there? They're still going to give the trophy to Mahomes anyway. So
No, I agree with you. I think I don't know. I don't know if I would have taken Allen out or not. And if you are going to take Allen out, I'm putting Tyreek in for sure. But I agree. At the end of the day, it's Patrick Mahomes. I think that this was a coin flip race going into week 13, week 14 until Jalen Hurts got hurt.
Yep.
He missed 2 games, and that's what really kind of screwed him. And so because of that, I think Mahomes is going to run away with this one.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, Jalen was definitely in that conversation for sure. The injury, I think, just it sucks that ends up being a reason why somebody falls out of this award. But I mean, for that reason, he had to lose it to Mahomes. So,
agreed.
All right, Patrick Mahomes MVP. We both agree, no question. Talk about Coach of the Year again. 5 candidates for this one as well. We got Nick Sirianni, Kyle Shanahan, Brian DeBall, Sean McDermott, and Doug Peterson. I look at all 5 of these and I go, man, there's some great names on here. I know going into this, before they released the finals, we were talking about this and we'd agreed with a bunch of the names that are already on this list. Look, what Nick Sirianni's done with the Eagles this season, it's been amazing. I mean, they were just cruising 8-1 and they were 13-1. I mean, this team was amazing. Look at Kyle Shanahan, losing quarterbacks left and right. His team's still dominating. You look at Brian DeBall and what he was able to do with that, whatever you want to call ragtag group of people that put on Giants jerseys and stepped on the field every week. And I mean, they were like 7-0 at one point before they lost. I mean, it was 6-0, maybe was it 6?
3? I think they were only 3. I think they lost to Chicago. Weird. I think they were like
no, they were 7-1 at one point. They were up there with they were up there undefeated for a while. So I mean, but again, I mean, and they made the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, so it's crazy when you look at Doug Peterson, him being able to go in there, clean up the Jaguars, making Trevor Lawrence look like a guy that he was supposed to be when they drafted him. I like it all. And then again, I look at Sean McDermott and kind of like with Josh Allen, except Josh Allen did do some things where maybe he could be considered MVP. Why is Sean McDermott on this list? That team was not the reason he should be on this team. He didn't do anything special. That team wasn't better than they were last year. They were arguably worse than they were last year. Take that name off that list. He does not even deserve to be in this conversation at all.
Dan Campbell should be in there.
Yeah, I would take Dan Campbell in that conversation 100 times out of 100 over Sean McDermott for sure. Yep. I think we're in agreement here, though. Who you got as Coach of the Year?
I got Brian Dable. I think that everyone had this team going 3 or 4 wins this year, 5 or 6 wins this year, finishing last in the division, having a top 5, top 10 pick this year. For him to make the playoffs, and now I know that once they win the playoff game, that's the award's already been decided. But to make the playoffs and then to validate it by winning a playoff game, for me, he's
Yep.
clearly the coach of the year. I think Doug Peterson deserves a ton of credit. I think for me, he's the clear cut second.
Mhm.
I think, out of 100 times, on a scale of 0 to 100, Dable's 100, and I think Doug Peterson's like a 95. Peterson had an excellent year. I think that he deserves a Coach of the Year honor in most seasons, but what Brian Dable did this year was fantastic.
I agree. It's clearly him. What he did with what he had on that field was just a mind blowing. He completely turned that entire team around, changed the mentality of that whole team, and yeah, I was blown away by what that team was supposed to be and what they ended up being. Clearly, it was him because they were less talented than they were last year. So for sure, he's the coach of the year. Offensive player of the year, 4 names: Tyreek Hill, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Jefferson. Um, not Josh Allen. I think it was Jalen Hurts. Why did I put Allen's name on there? Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Jefferson. And the crazy part about it is the name that I left on my finalist was actually the guy that I think wins it, which is Jalen Hurts. Can't win the MVP because he got hurt. But aside from that, I mean, the dude rushing, the guy passing, I mean, the dude was, lights out this year on the offensive side of the ball, making things happen when they need to make them happen. The wide receivers were great. I mean, 700-yard season, 1,800-yard season, but I think that trophy goes to Jalen Hurts because he can't win the MVP. They'll give it to him as a consolation prize.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think Hurts was lights out all year long. He might not have had the gaudiest numbers ever, but he got it done in the air. He got it done on the ground. And most importantly, his team was 14-1 this whole year when he played, and they were 0-2 without him. So shout out to Micah Parsons for saying that anyone can go in and win under this, with this team, but clearly they can't. So, and I think Gardner Minshew is a very capable backup. But yeah, at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts was amazing this year. It's a shame that his injury knocked him out of the MVP race because I think he could have had a chance at that. But we'll settle for Offensive Player of the Year for Jalen Hurts.
Defensive player of the year, 3 finalists: Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, Chris Jones. Wednesday, we kind of talked about Chris Jones and what he did this season, 15.5 sacks. This guy was really, really good. I think he was good. Hassan Reddick definitely probably deserved to add consideration there. Michael Parsons' name is there because he's maybe the most versatile pass rusher, linebacker in football right now. I mean, the guy can play middle linebacker, edge rusher. I mean, he's an elite defender. But I don't think there's any question. Nick Bosa, 18.5 sacks, 19 tackles for a loss, 2 forced fumbles. Nick Bosa is the clear-cut defensive player of the year as far as I see it.
I agree. I think Nick Bosa is clearly the defensive player of the year for sure. I think that honestly, Michael Parsons got a little bit of the Josh Allen syndrome on the defensive side of the ball. I think that he was blown up this year as an odds-on favorite to win defensive player of the year. He started off very, very well, but he really, really cooled off somewhere in those last 6 or 8 games or something like that. I think Hassan Reddick certainly should be third player for defensive player of the year, in my opinion. But yeah, Nick Bosa certainly should win the defensive player of the year, in my opinion.
And we look at our rookies. We got offensive and defensive rookies of the year. Offensive rookie of the year. Again, I think this one's an easy pick. You got Brock Purdy. Do look good. 1,300 yards, 5-0, 275 yards a game. Do look good, but he played 5 games. And I think, to me, as good as he looked, he only played 5 games. I can't give him offensive rookie of the year for playing less than a third of the season. I just can't do it. So for me, he's out. Kenneth Walker the third is the other one, and then Garrett Wilson. Look, Garrett Wilson had a good year. 1,100 yards receiving. I think there were a lot of wide receivers that had really good years for rookies. I don't think Garrett Wilson did anything that I looked at and was like, like last year when you look at a guy like Jamar Chase, who just absolutely destroyed the league. Garrett Wilson didn't do that. I realized
The year
some up and
before
down
that, Justin
quarterback
Jefferson
play.
destroyed the league. Yep.
Yeah, I get he had some up and down quarterback play, but you could say the same thing for Olave and down there. To me, Kenneth Walker is clearly the offensive rookie of the year. He came in, he put them on his back, and he just carried this team. And he went out and he got it done. 1,200 total yards, over 1,000 rushing, and 9 touchdowns. He didn't even play the entire season, but when he was called on to be the guy that Seattle needed him to be, which is running the ball, because that's who they are, he was able to come and get it done. To me, he's easily the offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, I think that I'm kind of in lockstep here with you with Ken Walker. For me, Ken Walker also wins it. I think it's kind of weird that Brock Purdy's name is even mentioned in here, yet for whatever reason they're not going to mention Brees Hall. Like they
Yeah,
played almost the
quarterback.
same number of games.
Yeah,
Brees Hall just got hurt early. Really weird. Brees Hall looked like he was going to end up being a lock
easily
for winning it.
easily would have won it, I think, if he hadn't gotten hurt. Because as good as Kenneth Walker was, I mean, he was
Well,
better.
Ken
So
Walker also didn't play every game this year,
yeah,
so yeah, for me,
yeah,
if yeah,
for sure, Hall would have won
If
it, I
Hall
think.
plays
So
all those games, Hall ends
I
up
agree.
winning it, but he didn't. Ken Walker played enough games for me to qualify to win it, so I'm going to end up giving it to Ken Walker. But I think Chris Olave should probably be up there instead of Brock Purdy.
For sure. Defensive rookie of the year. I think this is our first real big disagreement. So we
This is
got
going to be a
Aiden
tough one,
Hutchinson,
though.
Sauce Gardner, and Tyreek Woolen.
Yep,
I'll let you go first. Who you got for defensive rookie of the year?
I got Tariq Woolen, man. I think that what he's done this year. First off, what Pete Carroll and that organization has done this year in terms of drafting has been phenomenal. They got like
Crazy.
4 or 5 starters out of the rookie class this year. It was crazy. But for me, Tariq Woolen I mean, kid was a stud all year. I think he tied the league in interceptions this year. He had like 6. He had the lowest passer rating when targeted, with a minimum of whatever 50 targets or whatever. And I think that part of why. So, and look, I don't want to take anything away from Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce Gardner, Tariq Woolen, and your guy Pat Surtain are probably going to be like the Pat Peterson, and I don't know, like they're going to be great corners for the next 10 years, right? I think they're all going to make Pro Bowls. I think they all have all pro talents and stuff like that. So I'm not going to dampen anything on Sauce Gardner, but I think part of the reason why he's being shown the lights being kind of shown on him is because he was taken so high and everyone knew he was going to be so good. And so I think he's also kind of getting some of that Josh Allen,
Propped up
Micah
love.
Parsons. Yep. So he's getting a little bit of pumped up love from the beginning of the year. I think he was great this year, but for me, I think Tariq Woolen was just a little bit better.
He was. I mean, four more interceptions. He was thrown to less because you don't throw at corners when you're afraid of them. He allowed fewer completions and fewer yards. I mean, he was better. To me, Gardner, as good of a year as he had, he's third on my list. I got Aiden Hutchinson winning defensive rookie of the year. I know, right? A lot of people really? Yep, I know, right? Didn't see that coming. I got Aiden Hutchinson winning defensive rookie of the year. Look, as a rookie, 9.5 sacks. On a defense that we all agree wasn't very good, right? But 9.5 sacks, 9 tackles for a loss. Dude had 15 quarterback hits. Here you go. As a defensive lineman, 2 forced fumbles. He also had 3 interceptions. All right. He had more interceptions than Sauce Gardner, who is a corner. All right. So if you got a guy who's almost putting up double-digit sacks, he's getting 3 picks, 2 forced fumbles. I mean, that's 5 turnovers for this kid. In his first year playing for defense that wasn't very good. I just think that his name has definitely got to be in the consideration for defensive rookie of the year.
I don't know, man. For me, the issue with Aiden Hutchinson was he was very hot and cold in games. He would register no sacks for 3 straight weeks, and then he'd pop off for 3, and then he would do nothing for 2 weeks, and then he'd get 1. And then for me, he was too up and down for me to put him in serious consideration for defensive rookie of the year. I think he certainly belongs to be on the short list of it, but I don't. For me, I didn't even think it was even close. For me, I thought it was between Sauce Gardner and Tariq Woolen, and then Hutchinson was a distant third.
Yeah, I got him over his look. Look, I mean, hey, look, Tyreek Woolen has one of his 6 picks that tied him for first in the league. I mean, it was when he picked off Leonard Fournette throwing to Tom Brady. I don't even know if that counts. They're basically playing catch. There's audio of him saying that he's never going to catch a ball like that as easy ever again. So, hey, look, I get it. Look, I think that Woolen wins the award. I just think that Hutchinson should be a guy that needs to be in that conversation. So, but I think Woolen probably does win it. I just think Hutchinson put up the numbers to be considered a defensive rookie of the year.
Funny enough, is I think they're going to give it to Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, because of the name. Yeah. I don't want to agree with you. He's third on my list, but we'll see how that goes. All right, comeback player of the year. This one's near and dear to my heart.
Why is that, Ben?
I put some money on who was going to win this back in June.
Uh-huh.
And I put money on a guy who made the finals. And for weeks going into this, I've been talking to Mike and other people. Hey, who are the guys that can make comeback player of the year? I have a shot to win this bet.
Sure do.
Or am I going to lose some more money? And every time 3 names came up, and sure thing, those 3 names are the 3 names that showed up on this list. I think I know who's going to win. I think I know who should win. And we'll see what we agree on. So Saquon Barkley is on that list. Christian McCaffrey's on that list. And Geno Smith is on that list. I got Christian McCaffrey winning this award. I don't think it's close. 2 season-ending injuries back to back. Comes in this season, plays for 2 different teams. All right, doesn't skip a beat. Against he gets traded to San Francisco, and 4 days later, he's taking snaps against the Chiefs. All right. Fun fact, they lost that game where he only had 4 snaps, and then didn't lose another game for the rest of the season. So you add Christian McCaffrey.
Until
Sure, you're right. But they add Christian McCaffrey, regular season,
Yeah.
right? Full week of practice. They haven't lost a game since adding Christian McCaffrey to that team. Almost 1,900 all-purpose yards, 13 touchdowns. He was clearly better than Saquon rushing and receiving as a back. Not taken away, Saquon was great, especially at the beginning of the year. I thought he kind of tailed off a little bit, but I mean, Christian's numbers were just considerably better, and Saquon was healthier. Last year's Christian McCaffrey, 2 season injuries, coming back to get it. Look, I think they give the award to Geno just because it's good press, but to me, Christian McCaffrey is the unquestioned comeback player of the year.
Yeah, for me, I largely agree with everything you've said there. The only thing I don't know if I agree with is I don't know if they're definitely giving it to Geno.
I
Honestly,
think they do. Maybe that's me, because I just don't. I just feel like I'm going to lose a bet because that's how
yeah,
that
I
goes.
think you're projecting a little bit here. I think McCaffrey has a very good chance of getting this. If nothing else, it's because it's been 2 years in a row that he's been struggling, man. And you know, I don't know. I think for me that has to add in a little bit to this. Is that, like I said, he's been in and out for the last 2 years. I think that him coming to San Francisco and playing as well as he did, I think if he played for San Francisco that whole year, he's probably in conversations for some. He might have been that 5th name for MVP this year. He may have made the Pro Bowl. He may have been a 2nd team, 3rd team All Pro type of guy. I mean, he was great this year. The problem was that he started off in Carolina. Carolina was awful this year, but he still put up decent numbers in Carolina. But as soon as he got to San Fran and after that first game, he's just been lights out. I agree. So for sure, I agree. I think McCaffrey should win it. I don't think it's clear cut. For me, it's like 35% McCaffrey, 30% Gene, right? Like I don't know. For me, this is really, really up in the air. But hey, man, congrats to you for throwing that bet out there 9 months ago, and you're very much alive to win that one.
Will be exciting to see if I do. All right. These next 4 are also given out. They're not the big ones. We're gonna run through these pretty quick. Assistant coach of the year. I know we disagree on this. Who do you got?
I got Shane Steichen. I think that what Shane Steichen has done this year with Jalen Hurts has been fantastic. I think if you look back to Jalen Hurts' career, he hasn't had a consistent coach since high school. When he was in Alabama, we all know how dominant Alabama is, much like how New England was from the 2000 aughts until 2020, basically, right? Where every single year their coaches get picked from them. And so Jalen Hurts never had a consistent coach throughout college. He got benched at one point. So even if he did have the same, coaching tree there, he wasn't getting the reps. He then has to transfer to Oklahoma. So he went years without having the same guy. He then gets drafted to Philly, where Doug Peterson's there. Doug Peterson gets fired. They then bring in Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni loses it midway through the year, and so they give the play calling to Shane Steichen for the second half of the year. And this is the first year that Jalen Hurts has had a consistent coach for a full year, for consecutive years. And they were number 2 in offense this year. They were amazing. I think Shane Steichen really turned around this franchise and has done remarkable things. And so, yeah, I think Shane Steichen has to win assistant coach of the year for me.
Yeah, you make great points. I don't disagree. I think what he did was amazing. So I got D'Amico Ryans. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Defensive coordinator for the 49ers. When your defense is number 1 in literally every defensive category,
every major category, but
winner here. But I mean, point scorer, passing yards, rushing. I mean, that guy's defense was legit.
Yep.
He did a great job with that team this year, and he's taken over a team that 2 years ago they lost their defensive coordinator. So he's pretty new to doing this. He stepped in, he took over. Younger guy, and when you're number 1 in every major category, I think you got to be have your name in that hat.
And that's head coach of the Houston Texans, D'Amico Ryans, to you.
That is correct. All right, we got FedEx Air and Ground Player of the Year. We're just going to call him Air and Ground Player of the Year just to keep things simple, because FedEx doesn't pay me to use their name.
FedEx doesn't pay me nearly enough.
Yeah. When they start paying me, I'll talk about them a little bit more. So, Air Player of the Year, I think we both agree. Patrick Mahomes, he won the MVP. He was clearly the best passer. I wanted to throw this out just real quick. When you look at Mahomes' numbers, there was one quarterback who had a better yards per attempt and a better passer rating this year than Patrick Mahomes. Problem was he got hurt. It was not Jalen Hurts.
Darn it.
Problem was he got hurt, and so we would never get to see where he could have finished up to do it. And that's Tua. He finished with almost a full yard more per attempt than Mahomes did, and he finished with 105.2 to Mahomes and 105.5 for Tua. We'll see how it could have turned out, but it would have been interesting to see if he's there. But look, Patrick Mahomes, Air Player of the Year, Ground Player of the Year. I think you have Josh Jacobs, right?
Yep, sure do. I think Josh Jacobs is the Ground Player of the Year. He led the league in rushing. He had a crazy 300-yard all-purpose game against Seattle. Like he just and to do it on a team that was so bad this year, where when you're trailing all the time, that means you're throwing the ball all the time. It means his touches should have been limited, but he took full advantage of all of that. Josh Jacobs was great this year. I think he's the first team All-Pro guy too. So yeah, for me it's Josh Jacobs.
I can't disagree with that. I think there were three guys that really could be considered. It was Jacobs, Henry, or Chubb. To me, Derrick Henry was the guy. He had 100 yards less than Jacobs. He played one less game than him. He had one more touchdown. My biggest thing for him was it was the big runs, right? So he had 10, 20-plus yard runs. Jacobs only had 3. He had 4 40-plus yard runs. Nobody else even had more than 2. So for me, Derrick Henry was the guy that they knew they were running the ball because that team couldn't pass, and he still was dominant on the ground. So Derrick Henry for me, Ground Player of the Year. Another one that they like to give out, Fantasy Player of the Year. For me, it's got to be Travis Kelce. He finished the year tight end 1, averaging 19.2 points per game, which is 3 more points than the next tight end would have scored. The dude was just dominant for me at tight end, with as limited as that position is in fantasy. For those of you fantasy players out there, he was an elite player, and he was in a position where there really wasn't a lot of options to pivot. So even if you didn't get some of these top guys in other positions, Travis Kelce was such a game changer on rosters that to me, Travis Kelce easily Fantasy Player of the Year.
See, I don't know. The fact that you're saying easy is kind of disrespectful to Justin Jefferson, man. I mean, Justin Jefferson, he also finished as #1 wide receiver, different position, but he finished #1 in the league this year. He averaged almost 18 points per game as a wide receiver. Everybody knew coming into the year that he was going to be an elite player. He started that off with a rally, man. I mean, he came out with 184 yards and 2 touchdowns week 1. From there, he kind of cooled off for about 2 weeks. But from there, the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he had 6 straight weeks of over 12 points, with 2 of them being over 30, 3 of them over 25. Like he was just Mr. Automatic, man. I'm looking at it right now. He had about 2 or 3 games all year where he laid an egg, but Justin Jefferson had to do it all, and he was just amazing.
For me, here are my 2 things. One, he laid an egg in the playoffs in the championship round. That was the one game you can't have your top guy lay an egg, and he did. And number 2, he wasn't even the #1 wide receiver in points per game. If you assume at least 9 games played, he was 0.3 points under the #1 points per game player, which was Cooper Kupp. So to me, can't be the Fantasy Player of the Year.
Cooper Kupp didn't play enough games. How in the world are you? How are you shoehorning your favorite wide receiver into this?
9 games. Played 9 games.
Don't even try. That's a terrible argument, and I think you know that. I love Cooper Kupp. I know you love Cooper Kupp, and the audience, he loves Cooper Kupp. But stop it. Do not shoehorn Cooper Kupp into this one. Not this year. Last year, yes. Not this year.
All right, guys. Those are the major awards that get given out by the NFL every year, and all the different award ceremonies. These next ones are ones that Mike and I wanted to hand out ourselves. So these are Mile High on Broad awards for the year. We're going to do this lightning round style. So I'm going to name the award. We're each going to name who we're giving it to, maybe 1 or 2 super fast points as to why this guy in here. We're not going to argue. We're not going to really dig in too much. If we got some time, Damien, we'll go back. We really disagree on a major one, but we're going to lighten.
And also note that not all these are good awards. Some of these are worst of the year. So
yeah,
we got a little bit of fun with it.
Best and worst in most of these categories, guys. So buckle up. We're going to have some fun. So first off, we're going to start with the best coaching hire of the year. For me, off-season hire of the year, a guy that wasn't even looked at by a lot of teams, Doug Peterson, hired by the Jaguars. He completely turned around Trevor Lawrence and making him look like the guy that we thought he was supposed to be coming out. For me, looking at a guy that a lot of people had just written off and bringing him in to completely change the franchise, Dougie P, hire of the year.
Interesting. I thought you and I were going to be in lockstep on this one. I'm going with Brian Dable. I mean, he's going to end up winning Coach of the Year, and he's the new hire. So I don't know how you're managing to do that one, but for all the reasons stated earlier, I'm going with Brian Dable.
Perfect. This one we're definitely going to be in lockstep for. Worst hire. There are very few coaches that get fired in their first year before they finish the season. Nathaniel Hackett couldn't hack it, and he's out as the Denver Broncos head coach. That dude was horrendous. We don't even have enough time to begin to explain how bad Nathaniel Hackett was as a head coach. So we're just going to leave it at Nathaniel Hackett. You were the worst hire.
Hey, man, congrats, Nathaniel Hackett. You finally won something this year. You won a worst hire of the year from both of us. So congrats, Nathaniel Hackett. Real proud of you.
All right. Who we got as the best signing? All right. Not a trade. Free agent signing. Who was the best signing of the year, Mike?
Hassan Reddick. For me, top 3 defensive player of the year this year. He's not there, but for me, top defensive player, 3 defensive player of the year. Second in sacks, first in forced fumbles. And if nothing else, he's also been an absolute stud in this postseason. You know, whether you count that or not, he's been just an absolute great signing for us.
For me, I got Zadarius Smith. Went from the Packers over to the Vikings. He got hurt towards the end of the year, so I understand that. But if I'm looking at signings, I'm not looking at full year stats. But through week 10, 55 pressures, led the NFL. He was a top 5 in rush win rate and pressures, 10.5 sacks in that limited time, including 15 tackles for a loss, 32 total tackles, and a forced fumble in that time period. So the dude playing lights out for the Vikings. And for a team that was considered to be the worst defense in all of football, especially after he left, to me, best signing of the year.
It's a good one.
All right, who you got for the worst signing of the year?
Yeah, I'm going with Codler Murray. No, not Kyler Murray. Codler Murray.
Okay, I like it. Re-signing, not a free agent, but I like it. Okay.
There you go. I'm going with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was just, the whole ordeal was a mess with the whole adding in the whole studying clause. So to me, that told me this year that he didn't take it seriously. His numbers kind of reflect that. If you look at when the new Call of Duty seasons drop, like there's a weird algorithm with it. Look it up, guys, if you haven't seen it. It's very interesting, makes some very compelling points. But yeah, I think everyone in our group chat, you, me, one of our buddies, I think Lauren was even kind of, Ben's fiance was kind of confused on this. So yeah, didn't really like that re-signing of that. And I think they're going to pay for that for the next 3 or 4 years.
At least big money, big nothing.
Yep.
All right, my worst signing, J.C. Jackson. All right, led the league in picks last year. Got some fun stats for you. Look, he got hurt, but again, I'm not looking at whole season. I'm looking at, you paid this guy a ton of money. What did he do? 5-year, $82 million. All right, $40 million of that guaranteed. Lowest graded corner with a minimum of 50 snaps prior to his injury. All right, highest rate of explosive plays allowed in the NFL. All right, he allowed 2.48 yards per snap pass attempt. All right, which is over a half a yard closest than the number 2 corner. The dude was horrendous, and you're paying this guy buku bucks to be a top corner. He is not worst signing of the year.
Yeah.
All right, guys, some fun ones. Best trade of the year.
For me, this one's got to go to Tyreek Hill. I think that Tyreek Hill has been fantastic for that Miami offense. I think when he came over to Miami, everyone said that this is going to be the fastest duo in the league, and it's really going to be a boom or bust year for Tua. And I think, weirdly enough, Tua actually found a way to somehow skate that middle ground because of how great he was, how bad he was, and now he's injured. So that was weird. But Tyreek Hill has been amazing. I think he made himself the number 2 wide receiver in this year. If we're ranking wide receivers for me, he's number 2 this year. So a lot of people were questioning whether he was going to do without Patrick Mahomes, but he showed that he's great. So yeah, shout out Tyreek Hill.
All right. I was going to wonder if we were going to be in lockstep on this one or not. I think there were really 3 names that are going to be talked about for the best trade. You had Tyreek Hill, you had Devontae Adams, and the guy that I'm picking, which is A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown,
all right?
Nice.
And here's the reason I'm picking A.J. Brown over those other wide receivers. It was compensation. They gave up 1 first-round draft pick for A.J. Brown. They gave up a ton more for Tyreek Hill. They gave up a ton more for Adams. A.J. Brown in here, I think he finished 4 yards under 1,500, 11 touchdowns. He allowed that Eagles offense to really open up in the passing game because you don't just have little Devontae Smith, who's a phenomenal wide receiver, but he's a little guy. You added that extra thing. The dude was insane, and you gave up a first-round draft pick for this guy versus what you gave up for these other guys. I just think that was easily the best trade for this offseason.
Yeah, great value for sure.
How about the worst trade of the offseason? Who spent a bunch to get nothing in exchange?
I don't know. I mean, am I looking at a guy who's a fan of a football team right now? I don't know. It seems like a danger witch kind of a mood. I don't know. I'm going with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has been just awful. ton of money, ton of draft
Spicy.
capital, and an awful TV commercial. So for me, it's Russell Wilson.
All right, so mine's Deshaun Watson. All right.
Okay.
Um, 3 first-round draft picks they gave up for him, 6 total picks. They actually gave up more for Deshaun Watson than they did for Russell Wilson. Gave him a 230 million fully
Fully
guaranteed
guaranteed.
contract.
Yeah.
And for me, here is the biggest thing. Coming back from his suspension, he went 3-3. He completed only 58% of his passes, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks, and had a fumble on the ground. He averaged only 183 yards per game, and he only had 1 game where he threw for over 250 yards. This is a guy who won, who led the league in passing 2 seasons ago. And to me, when you look at Russell Wilson's last 2 weeks when they get rid of Hackett, he looked great. No, but he looked a lot more like vintage Russell Wilson did. And I'm looking at Watson and going, this guy does not look elite. You gave up big time for this guy to be elite. And if he is not elite, you lost. There's no question. If Russell Wilson can get back to being okay, all right, Denver can get by with that trade. If Watson doesn't turn into an elite player, as young as he is, they're in big trouble with what they gave up in the contract they gave to me. Deshaun Watson, worst trade of the offseason.
It's fair.
All right, most impressive team.
Most impressive team. Yeah, I got to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that nobody saw us coming out this hot. I think a lot of people thought we were going to kind of be like a middling upper tier type of a team, somewhere in that 10, 11, 12 wins. But for us to be the last undefeated team, for us to have been 14-1 with our starter, going 14-3 overall, #1 seed. I mean, a lot of people saw Kansas City. A lot of people predicted the Bengals. A lot of people predicted the Bills. I think that the one really big, and a lot of people thought the 49ers, the one real outlier there was Philadelphia, so I got to go with Philadelphia.
Nice. I'm going to take Detroit. All right, hear me out.
That's fair.
30.1 points per game, #1 points per game in the NFL, led the league in 30-point games. To me, that was just insane for what they have on the field and what they've been able to meet. To me, the team that impressed me the most, what they were able to do, was the Detroit Lions. I think that, they can shore up some more things. They get a little bit, more seasoned, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and this team could do some good things coming up. To me, they were really impressive with what they were able to do, especially on that offensive side of the ball. All right, who was the most embarrassing team? I don't think we're going to spend too much time on it. Lockstep here again.
Let's ride, baby. Broncos country, most embarrassing team this year. I think a lot of people had them going somewhere in that 11-win range. I thought that they were going to contend with Kansas City for that division title, and they were bad. So, yeah, good job, Nathaniel Hackett. You're responsible for 2 awards this year. Let's go.
Yeah, so I put a lot of notes on a lot of these awards. I want to talk about these guys and their stats. And, for most embarrassing team, I wrote Denver, and I just put just embarrassing because that's all it is. Look, I love going. I got a goal to visit every NFL stadium at some point in my life. We were going to drive down to Baltimore to watch the Broncos play this year, and I didn't even go because the team was so embarrassing. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to spend money to be embarrassed. All right. And they're losing and they're being bad and they're just being embarrassing. It's not close. God, that was embarrassing this year. They were horrible. Best executive.
Howie Roseman. I think Howie has to get a ton of credit, if not all of the credit, for the reason for this roster being considered the best, the second best, most complete roster in the entire league. He went out and he got Hassan Reddick. He got A.J. Brown. He did pretty well in the draft this year, despite our rookies kind of being hurt a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, I think Howie deserves a lot of flowers. I think a lot of Eagles fans need to apologize to him. I am not one of them. I never got off the Howie train. Ben can back me up on this one. I never wanted Howie out. The only thing I've ever wanted taken from him is his drafting, but he seemed to have gotten better the last year or two. But, yeah, Howie Roseman, best executive of the year.
Yeah, I think he looked a lot better since he forgot to draft Justin Jefferson, but we won't spend too much time on that. Look, for me, it's easily Rosen as well. He's going to win that unanimous best executive in the league. 4 big offseason acquisitions. A.J. Brown, 1,500 yards, just under 11 touchdowns. Hassan Reddick, 16.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles. Chauncey Gardner Johnson, 6 interceptions, tied for #1 in the league. Bradbury, as a number 2 corner, 3 picks, 17 pass defenses, made that probably the best corner duo in the league. I mean, those are some great moves, and it made this team who they are. So easily executive him. Who's the worst executive of the year?
I got to go with Jim Irsay, man. This whole thing was just weird. The whole year was weird. Everybody thought going into the year that the Colts had a chance at overtaking the Titans for that division. Weirdly enough, Jacksonville is the one that took it from them. But yeah, like they should have been good. Jonathan Taylor gets hurt and they just don't have the season that they want. They then fire Frank Reich, who I didn't think that was fair. I mean, look at who he's had at quarterbacks there. He's had nobody of any relevance. He's had Carson Wentz, he's had old man Phillip Rivers, and he's had a washed up Matt Ryan. I didn't think he got a fair shot at that one. So take that for what you will. So they fire him just to bring in Jeff freaking Saturday. And then they're still apparently looking at possibly hiring Jeff Saturday right now, man. Like the fight in Jeff Saturdays will look good for 1.5 weeks, right? They won the first game that he was there, and they put up a really good fight against the Eagles until the second half where they kind of, gave it up. But the fact that Irsay is still looking at trying to keep Jeff Saturday is very bizarre to me. Very strange moves. Didn't like it. Jim Irsay is my worst executive of the year.
All right, so I'm gonna pick this one before people come at me. I'm gonna tell you why. I got Steve Kim in Arizona.
Yep.
Look, he said he stepped away for health reasons. If that is the reason, and he's really not feeling good, then I will take my hat off and apologize. But to me, that team was supposed to be really good. You sign your coach to this massive deal, and then he gets fired. You pay your quarterback a ton of money, and then he doesn't play. Your top wide receiver wants to be traded, and halfway through the season, you are suddenly don't want to be there anymore, and you just walk away from the team. To me, man, you were the worst executive. You put a crap product on the thing. You paid a bunch of people money you shouldn't have paid them that team's going to be paying for years, and then you just walked away and let somebody else clean up your mess. I don't know how they're going to get somebody in there to figure it out. They're still trying to find a new coach. I think they named a general manager. I don't even know how long that's going to last, but you got a mess to clean up. This guy created it, and then he just said, "Deuces, I'm not feeling too hot. Looking at what I did made me sick, so I'm out of here." So,
little savage.
Yeah, look, I wrote his name down. I'm like, man, I'm going to get cut up for this. How dare you? People are going to be mad at me. They're going to say a lot of stuff. But look, I call it how it is. He just bounced out like that. I just kind of took it as like, dude, your team has been garbage, and you just decided this was your ability to cut and get out, and you did. So, come at me if you want to.
Health reasons or not, he still belongs in there, so that's fine.
Ugly. All right, last two. We got best play of the year, and we got the worst play of the year. So, best play of the year. Who we got?
For me, best play of the year goes to arguably the best catch I have ever seen in my life, and that's the Justin Jefferson catch over the Bills. I mean, it's 4th and 16. You're trailing. You're double coveraged, and it was an absolute circus catch that I think only 2 or 3 players in the history of the league could have ever made. Justin Jefferson comes down with it. That drive leads them to score. Eventually, they go to overtime. Eventually, they win. And it was an impactful play. It was a fantastic play. It helped them win the game. Best play of the year for me.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question on that one. I was watching a bunch of videos, best plays of the year. I don't even think any of these other ones even stand. I mean, one-handed with guys draped all over him. He pulls that down on a crucial play to win the game, 4th and 20-something yards, and he manages to bring that down. I mean, we're talking Odell Beckham catch, but with defenders all over you, and still came down with that ball. It was absolutely ridiculous. Easily the play of the year. I don't think there's any question. I don't think anybody will ever debate that's easily the play of the year. That might even be play of the decade. It was just ridiculous. Definitely the best catch that I've ever seen in my lifetime, maybe ever. It was ridiculous.
Agreed.
Worst play of the year. Let's see what you got.
For me, it is Mac Jones gets Mac trucked. Khalil Mack just runs him over. What in the world was that play? Bill Belichick, I thought you were supposed to be the greatest coach ever. You're known for being situational football. How the heck did that happen? Like, it was a bad idea for them to pitch the ball. First off, it was a bad idea to run the ball. It was then a bad idea for them to pitch the ball to Jacoby Myers, and it was an awful idea for Jacoby Myers to throw it back to Mac Jones. What is Mac Jones supposed to do if he does come down with that ball? And then instead, Khalil Mack catches it, stiff arms Mac Jones into the ground. I think he's still laying down there somewhere. I don't know. He certainly isn't playing quarterback very well, so he might still be laying down. From there, Khalil Mack takes it to the house for a touchdown. Raiders win the game. Just embarrassing. Worst play I've ever seen from Bill Belichick. Worst play of the year for me.
For me, another Bills game. We got the Dolphins and the Bills. We got the butt punt for a safety. I don't know if you saw this, but I thought it was hilarious. In his back of his own end zone, he punts it right off the butt of his own lineman, bounces out of the back of the end zone, safety. To me, worst play of the game. You're already in a bad spot, and you just make it worse by punting it off your own guy's butt. And God, you got to love a good butt play. So the punt off the butt for a safety, week 3, Dolphins Bills, to me, funniest and worst play of the year. So those are our awards, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'll get a list up on our Facebook. Make sure you guys go over there, like and follow. We'll get it up for you guys. Enjoy. We'll see you next time.